C.S. Lewis has an incredible ability to create revolutionary thoughts and emotions out of ideas that, for me and many other readers, were unprecedented. In The Magician's Nephew, the first chronological book in the famous Chronicles of Narnia series, I felt myself not only transported to new worlds and experiences, but also to a different state of mind. Writing is an art form of limitless expression. It's not surprising that, as such, it is far less accessible than others. Reading is a skill required to appreciate the endless depth that writing can convey. Writing is perhaps the greatest brush or instrument or lens of them all, because it can evoke the most extraordinary images and feelings that are impossible to capture in anything other than abstract thought. This is what C.S. Lewis accomplishes in The Magician's Nephew. The story of Aslan's creation of the world conveys to the reader the beauty, majesty, love, and awe inherent in such an act of Genesis. The way Lewis reimagines and invigorates the biblical creation of the world is simple yet powerful. It starts off with the main cast of Diggory, Polly, Uncle Andrew, Queen Jadis, the cabbie, and Strawberry the horse standing alone in a world without light or matter. Then suddenly, Aslan appears and begins to sing the vacant world into being. There were no words, there was hardly even a tune, but it was, beyond comparison, the most beautiful noise that Diggory had ever heard. There is, of course, no music to be heard by reading the book, but Lewis presents the reader with something perhaps even more fitting. He uses the characters' reactions to the music to help us understand what they are experiencing. Diggory calls Aslan's song the most beautiful noise that he had ever heard. The cabbie proclaims that he would have been a better man all his life if he knew such a thing existed. Strawberry remembers his blissful youth where he played innocently in a field and was brought lumps of sugar by his loving owner. By contrast, Uncle Andrew and Jadis are disturbed and frightened by the emotions being stirred in their sinful hearts. All of these reactions help the reader piece together an idea of what this song is in their minds, thus allowing them to see and feel the beauty of the moment in a way that simply reading, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," might not be able to. Perhaps it's fitting that in order to understand the beauty of creation, we ourselves must create our own images and songs to represent that which represents the beauty of creation. The very use of such an implied song itself was a genius inclusion on Lewis's part. God and religion are not concepts that will evoke a uniform emotional response, even if, for example, one was preaching to an entirely Christian audience. Not everyone will be moved by events in the way that Lewis intended. So he included an idea that would create that emotional response. Music is such a universally appreciated art form that, by associating it with Aslan's act of creation, the ideas of God, religion, and creation take upon new meanings that parallel the emotions that the music described elicits. Somebody who has never in their life thought of a god with any sort of reverence can read this scene and find themselves holding Aslan in the highest of regards for the sheer majesty of what he's described to have done. Aslan's song of creation is not merely confined to its visceral effect on the reader, though. It also has a tangible impact on the very event of creation itself. Polly makes the connection that the deep, prolonged notes are what create the trees, while the lighter, shorter notes bring about the emergence of small and delicate flowers from the ground. This sort of order further creates a sense of awe by further emphasizing the poetic nature of the event. It's also worth celebrating the simplicity of the method Lewis uses in manifesting such complex and even foreign emotions. Sesquipedalian is is an appropriately monstrous word that characterizes writing through the use of long and complex words, and I'm happy to say that Lewis avoids that kind of style. For such a striking scene, there's a remarkable lack of sophistication to the language used to describe it. Everything is written in a way that the children whom the book was made for can process the fundamental ideas and emotion the scene creates without sacrificing any of the meaning that may come with more advanced language. And honestly, I think the inclusion of any sort of haughty or intellectual language would only pervert the remarkable atmosphere that C.S. Lewis created in this scene. Like much of The Magician's Nephew, the Aslan creation scene repackages biblical ideas in a way that can resonate with all readers without changing the meanings or emotions of those original stories. This is exactly what a good allegory seeks to do, bring meaning from one context to readers in another. Lewis's greatest accomplishment here was his ability to transfer the feelings that the Bible had stirred so strongly within himself to an all-new audience. So, if you've ever found the spiritual and emotional content of Genesis to be inaccessible for whatever reason, then perhaps turning to Narnia is the way to go.